Another day found me walking alone near the Howrah railway station. I stood for a moment by a temple, silently criticizing a small group of men with drum and cymbals who were violently reciting a chant. How undevotionally they used the Lord's divine name in mechanical repetition, I reflected. Suddenly I was astonished to see Master Mahasaya rapidly approaching me. "Sir, how come you here?" The saint, ignoring my question, answered my thought. "Isn't it true, little sir, that the beloved's name sounds sweet from all lips, ignorant or wise?" He passed his arm around me affectionately. I found myself carried by his magic carpet to the merciful presence. "Would you like to see some bioscopes?" This question one afternoon from the reclusive Master Mahasaya was mystifying to me. The term was then used in India to signify motion pictures. I agreed, glad to be in his company in any circumstances. A brisk walk brought us to the garden fronting Calcutta University. My companion indicated a bench near the Goldhigi or pond. "Let us sit here for a few minutes." My master asked me to meditate whenever I saw an expanse of water. Here its placidity reminds us of the vast calmness of God. As all things can be reflected in water, so the whole universe is mirrored in the lake of the cosmic mind, so my Gurudev often said. Soon we entered a university hall where a lecture was in progress. It proved abysmally dull, though varied occasionally by lantern slide illustrations, equally uninteresting. So this is the kind of bioscope the master wanted me to see. My thought was impatient, yet I would not hurt the saint by revealing boredom in my face. But he leaned toward me confidentially. "I see, little sir, that you don't like this bioscope. I have mentioned it to Divine Mother. She is in full sympathy with us both. She tells me that the electric lights will now go out and won't be relit until we have a chance to leave the room." As his whisper ended, the hall was plunged into darkness. The professor, whose strident voice had been stilled for a moment in astonishment, said, "The electrical system of this hall appears to be defective." By this time Master Mahasaya and I were already across the threshold. Glancing back from the corridor, I saw that the hall was again illuminated. "Little sir, you were disappointed in that bioscope, but I think you will like a different one." The saint and I were standing on the sidewalk in front of the university building. He gently slapped my chest over the heart. A transforming silence ensued. Just as the modern talkies become inaudible motion pictures when the sound apparatus goes out of order, so the divine hand, by some strange miracle, stifled the earthly bustle. Pedestrians, as well as the passing trolley cars, automobiles, bullock carts, and iron-wheeled hackney carriages, were all in noiseless transit. As though possessing an omnipresent eye, I beheld the scenes that were behind me and to each side as easily as those in front. The whole spectacle of activity in that small section of Calcutta passed before me without a sound. Like a glow of fire dimly seen beneath a thin coat of ashes, a mellow luminescence permeated the panoramic view. My own body seemed nothing more than one of the many shadows, though it was motionless, while the others flitted mutely to and fro. Several boys, friends of mine, approached and passed on. Though they had looked directly at me, it was without recognition. The unique pantomime brought me an inexpressible ecstasy. I drank deep from some blissful fount. Suddenly my chest received another soft blow from Master Mahasaya. The pandemonium of the world burst upon my unwilling ears. I staggered, as though harshly awakened from a gossamer dream. The transcendental vine was removed beyond my reach. "Little sir, I see you found the second bioscope to your liking." The saint was smiling. I started to kneel in gratitude on the ground before him. "You can't do that to me now," he said. "You know God is in your temple also. I won't let Divine Mother touch my feet through your hands." If anyone observed the unpretentious master and me as we slowly walked away from the crowded pavement, the onlooker surely suspected us of intoxication. I felt that the falling shades of evening were sympathetically drunk with God. trying with poor words to do justice to his benignity. I wonder if Master Mahasaya and others among the saints whose paths crossed mine knew that years later in a Western land I would be writing about their lives as divine devotees. Their foreknowledge would not surprise me, nor I hope my readers who have come thus far with me. Saints of all religions have attained God realization through the simple concept of the cosmic beloved. Because the Absolute is Nirgun, without qualities, and achintya, inconceivable, human thought and yearning have ever personalized it as the universal mother, a combination of personal theism and the philosophy of the Absolute is an ancient achievement of Hindu thought, expounded in the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita. This reconciliation of opposites satisfies heart and head. Bhakti, devotion and Gyan, wisdom, are essentially one. Prapati, taking refuge in God, and Sharanagati, flinging oneself on the divine compassion, are really paths of the highest knowledge. The humility of Master Mahasaya and of all other saints springs from a recognition of their total dependence, Seshatva, on the Lord as the sole life and judge. Because the very nature of God is bliss, the man in attunement with Him experiences a native boundless joy. The first of the passions of the soul and the will is joy. Devotees of all the ages approaching the mother in a childlike spirit testify that they find her ever at play with them. In Master Mahasaya's life, the manifestations of divine play occurred on occasions, important and unimportant. In God's eyes, nothing is large or small. Were it not for His perfect nicety in constructing the tiny atom, could the skies wear the proud structures of Vega, Arcturus? Distinctions of important and unimportant are surely unknown to the Lord, lest for want of a pin the cosmos collapse.